Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we have a special guest. They live a very interesting, mostly analog life. So we're very happy to have them here in the digital world, but they are an author that wrote an instructional manual for self-salvation that comes not from enlightenment observations made atop a mountain in the clouds, but from the mud. His qualifications is no better than yours, but rather that he is at one time was much worse than where you are. He, like I said, lives a mostly analog life, teaching neuroplasticity workouts to high-performing teams in New York, recovering tech expats in Miami, and juvenile delinquents in Las Vegas. Please, everybody, put your hands together for our guest today, Charles Morgan. Charles?
How's it going, everybody? Thanks so much for having me, Phil, and for that wonderful introduction.
Very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here, Charles, and I can't thank you enough to be here and share your story. We did chat a bit before the podcast started rolling, but I would love for you to introduce yourself to my audience. I know I read off this beautiful intro, but that's all it was a beautiful bunch of words. But tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe something most people don't know about yourself.
Certainly. Yeah, I was a fairly normal person at one point. And then, my mom saw that I liked to play with Legos, and she was like, "Oh, you like to build things. You're going to be a great engineer." And I was like, I was like 5 years old. I was like, "What's an engineer?" And he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. But the best engineers go to MIT." And I was like, "Oh, what's MIT?" And then she was like, "Don't worry about it." But that set me on the path, and it was, my Chinese tiger mom really made sure that math and science was all I could speak. And I did get into that school, and I did study science. Yeah, I was an electrical engineer, material scientist. I was working on solar cells and batteries, had no intention of becoming an entrepreneur. Just really wanted to solve the energy crisis. That was I woke up every day doing these quantum physics equations, trying to figure out how to make a new battery. And then my junior year, between second and third year, I got an internship at a really exciting semiconductor startup in Boston. And, it was like, spin out of an MIT lab. One of the co-founders was a professor. It was funded by BP. It was just like as cool as it could get in terms of wanting to work on energy and like being curious about startup, but no, it's still not even thinking about starting a company. And I learned that the chief science officer of this startup had 2 PhDs, right? One in physics, one in material science from Boston College, from MIT. He was making less money annually than the kid that just graduated and got a job at Facebook.
Wow.
From my fraternity. This was like the time when everybody was getting their offer letters, and this was crazy, man. It was, now we've got all these massive tech layoffs, but circa 2012, 2013, there was the famous Facebook 100 offer, right? 100K first year salary, 100,000 options, and 100K signing bonus. It's not a myth. Like, we had kids walking around with like half when you sign, 50K, half when you show up for your first day. All right. And you're telling me I got to go to school for 10 years like this guy to get 2 PhDs to make less than a 22-year-old software engineer? No, I'm just going to learn how to program. So I did, I just, put myself on a schedule. Like I had printed out a calendar, and like every day, minimum 30 minutes of programming a day. And some days it would turn into hours. You get into the flow state. And my first job out of college was at a big tech company. And I worked at a cybersecurity firm in Palo Alto. And, it was really just some of the most amazing engineers that you could hope for. And they really taught me how to think about data, how to think about, the movement around unstructured, structured data, artificial intelligence that's being trained on that data, something very relevant with the release of all these AI tools in the last few months, and like GPT, Midjourney, DALL-E. So, all these things come down to data, right? And I just got the Silicon Valley bug. The recruiters, they definitely all hired us on the premise of like, if you want to save the world, like come do software, and then you get into these big tech companies and nobody's saving the world, man. We're making money hand over fist. All right. And, anytime that I would propose to one of my managers, like, hey, like we could use the software for this really cool thing, then they're like, oh, who's going to pay for it? It's all right. We'll let somebody else do that. And anyway, so my friends and I from school, we left and started our first company together. We very much wanted to like test this idea of like, if software could save the world, what's going on in the world, like, philanthropy, sort of the business of saving the world. What's the software stack look like? And, we did our thing. We built a couple of products, we raised some money, we got some customers. We had like a really nasty co-founder breakup. And like when we grew from like, we had like 3 co-founders, and then one of them, he was just like, nah, I'm just going to go back to Google. Startup life wasn't for him. It's all good. And then me and the other guy continued, and then we grew, and then explosion. And that was, it was after this little explosion that my lead investor, he met with me, and he gave me this book. This book was called Nonviolent Communication. And this book changed my life. I'm not going to lie. I mean, he said that, he said to me, he's like, this is not the first time that you're going to have a company extinction event, but this is the last time that you let it get this bad. And he gave me this book, and he was like, he explained to me that most companies, I mean, this guy has invested as an angel investor in like hundreds of companies. So he's seen founders come and go. And he's like, the thing that kills startups is not a bad idea, bad business model. These things can make it so that your business never gets off the ground. But the thing that kills a working business is co-founder drama. Whether it's a dispute between the co-founders themselves, it's, one of them had some like insane personal event that's preventing them from working, preventing them from focusing, right? They talk about how so many new companies fail every year, but they don't really talk about, the specific reasons why. And like the seasoned investors know just from firsthand, like talking to their founders, that most of these situations come down to personal or interpersonal issues. And these are the landmines. And, that got me very interested. And, stayed in the game, of course, started another company with the friends, and we raised some more money, got some more customers. And then, eventually I got burned out. And but not to the same degree that others did, because clearly I'm still in the game.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing that took me some time to realize, but what separated me from my friends and peers, that we all started companies around the same time together. A lot of them are in jobs that they hate, just back to the grind, and it's the ones that did go back and take big tech jobs. A couple of them are now out of a big tech job, and it's just, they're back in the game. But the point is that, I had this foundation, this Chinese foundation, where my mother raised me as a Buddhist, and I've been meditating since I was a kid. And I didn't think that it was that valuable until we had like this kind of blow up with my first company's co-founding team. And one of the guys that was not part of the co-founding group, but definitely one of the senior guys that was working with us, he had given me a book about Buddhism, because he knew that I was into it. But that really kind of kickstarted. I mean, when you're a kid and you're going to church, right? When my mom was taking me to Buddhist temple, like, you're there, but you don't really get it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really get why people are chanting. You don't really get why people are meditating. You don't really get why people are praying. And then it's age, and it's these interactions that you run into in your business life, in your personal life. It doesn't matter what label you put on it. They're people, right? These are people that are, doing things together, that are taking things from each other, that are saying that they're going to get something done at a certain time and then not doing it, and then the other person has an over emotional reaction, and then that turns into a fight, and now you don't have a company anymore, right? These little kind of things that protecting yourself from emotional hijacking is like really the only thing that one can do. And there's not a lot of curriculum, I would say, out here for the entrepreneurs that are just getting, especially the first timers, right? Like I remember when I started my first company, like I thought my VCs were my friends. Like I thought they were my like advisors and trusted colleagues, you know what I mean? Like they wanted me to succeed. They were financially interested in my success. But no, man, then that was a, a not too expensive lesson to learn at the time, but an important one, that like a lot of folks that, especially in the early 20s, starting companies, and even, kids are starting companies even younger now. Like with ChatGPT, you don't even need to know how to program. You can code an app.
Mhm.
So, the earlier that it comes, the more I feel like this kind of education in terms of like, do you know what kind of job you're signing up for? Because this isn't like, going and like enlisting in, boot camp, right? This is like Navy SEAL training. Like being an entrepreneur is lonely, it's difficult, it's, like everybody in your life is just going to tell you to get a job. So you have to be a little bit crazy, a little bit defiant, right? But then you also have to be grounded in the reality of the market. And if you don't have your feet in the ground and your head in the clouds, you really can't make it in this game, right? And so you need strategies. You need, like, Navy SEALs can do more push-ups than normal people for a reason, right? Entrepreneurs need to have stronger mental fitness than other people for a reason, because this job is tough and it's traumatic.
And so that brought you to write this book.
It did. Where I wanted to basically assemble all of the modern neuroscience on anxiety, depression, PTSD, burnout, just kind of these things that I've been, dealing with myself, in terms of like keeping it at bay, but then also watching my friends completely succumb to it. And, sort of that, by assembling all that, we revealed there's one part of the brain that is like the main villain in each of them, and it's called the amygdala. This is that that word that I said when we first got on.
Yes, I can't pronounce whatever
Um,
that word, the sciencey fiction word that's in the brain.
yeah, it's Latin for almond, because this part of the brain looks like an almond when they were dissecting brains in the beginning, right? And so this part of the brain is essential to the limbic system, and the limbic system has to do with like your prediction of pleasure versus your prediction of pain, right? And it turns out that the amygdala is the thing that encodes extremely positive and extremely negative memories on your long-term memory, right? It is like the critical, like with what happens with PTSD is that the amygdala is just like so overwhelmed by the experience of what's happening that it just short circuits essentially. And what this does, and the neuroscience is very clear, is that even if you were not an asshole before, if you have a traumatic incident, and it doesn't need to be going to war, and like, it doesn't need to be divorce, right? It could just be like you started a company with your best friend, and 5 years later he betrays you for the bank account and like just everything that you built together, right?
Not
but
being specific or anything.
that actually did not happen to me. that's just
It was just a nice segue. It's like, yeah, that does not sound like something that happened to him. He does not hold a grudge. No.
but it happens, and it happens in a lot of different variations, and we sweep it all under the rug by saying it's not personal, it's just business. This label is meaningless. We're humans. These are humans doing things to each other. And the trauma is the same. And the neuroscience is clear that if you have experienced one of these traumatic episodes and your amygdala gets short circuited, it, becomes dysfunctional, smaller in size, and you have bipolar. Like you just all of a sudden have bipolar tendencies. Right now, as a business leader that needs to keep your head cool under pressure, having this chink in your mental armor is unacceptable. For anybody that wants to really win, for anybody that really cares about high performance, for anybody that really cares about just getting the bag, like you have this chink in your mental armor because you want to tough it out and say like, oh, I don't have PTSD. Like, fuck you. Can I curse on the show? I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes. You're. There's only one hard rule. I should have mentioned that beforehand. It's the C word, which is famous by Brits and Aussies, but
Yeah.
you're not a Brit or an Aussie, so we're fine there. So yeah, you can swear.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
But it's this thing, and it's this such a small part of your brain, but it has such a huge effect on your total consciousness, right? In the sense that like sensory input, things that you see, things that you hear, things that you smell, they go straight to the amygdala, and then the amygdala creates an emotional hormonal response instruction that it gives to the rest of the brain, right? So even if somebody said something to you and it wasn't on an intellectual level bothering you, it could have triggered one of these little psychic dysfunctions, these little traumatic episodes. And now your body's starting to secrete cortisol, and within a few seconds you're angry, and you feel like you just don't know why that you're angry, but you know that you're angry, right? And if you can't recognize this cortisol, norepinephrine spike in your bloodstream, like in the sense of feeling how your body feels, you're stuck. You're stuck. What happens when you get into a fight or flight response? You stop breathing, right? And it's, you know, this method that I teach in the book that, you know, there's 3 levels to these neuroplastic workouts, but these are, you know, a specific style of breath combined with a specific mantra from Buddhism that targets and grows a specific part of the brain. And there's 3 levels to it. There's, you know, first, you know, sort of like the concentration nodes of the brain, and then there's, you know, we can get into it, but ultimately, you know, this shirt that I'm wearing, you know, says, "Show me your amygdala, size matters," right? Because what they found in scanning the brains of these people with traumatic brain injuries and PTSD is that it's dysfunctional. But when they scanned these yogis and these Buddhists, these functional MRI machines, they scan these yogis and these Buddhists that have been meditating for 10,000 plus hours, they have 5 times larger amygdala than normal people. They are immune to emotional hijacking. And we call it Zen. Like, oh, he's so chill. It's like, no, he went through the entire emotional spike, but he returned to baseline faster than you. And that's the superpower, right? This superhuman peace of mind, the superhuman compassion. It's not foo-foo rah-rah. It's a hardware upgrade. Their amygdalas are 5 times larger. It's that simple. And we don't need to make it more complicated, right? And this has incredible ramifications in terms of what this knowledge and this practice can do for your business, for your life, for your relationships with all the people that are in that business and that life.
I want to get a tip, because this is something that's super, super interesting to me, because I've been listening to Huberman's Lab
Yes.
podcast. It's an amazing thing. I'm trying. I understand, like, now that I see science, it's like, okay, yeah, this isn't someone just saying, no, it works, and here's some anecdotal evidence. No, there's scientific proof, because we do live in a more scientific world. And what you're saying makes sense. And I would love if you could share with us a tip. Someone who may not realize they have some trauma in back that gets triggered, that can start doing maybe a task or something that can help them build their amygdala. I think I said it right.
You did. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm not going to try and say it again, but they can help start growing it. Maybe slowly, but start healing it so that they can, you know, start becoming more Zen-like when their issues arise.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, we've got the time. I can take us through basically neuroplastic workout level 1.
Sure. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's have that live on the podcast. Let's go ahead and do this, Charles.
Yeah. I call it Never Skip Joy Day. All right. And so what it is a combination of, so there's 2 components to a stress response or an angry response, right? And that is the physical component in terms of how your blood chemistry is changing in response to the stress hormones. And then there's the mental trigger, which is like kind of like as soon as you know, I mean, if anybody that goes to therapy will, you know, like they'll tell their therapist something, they'll say, how did that make you feel? And it's like the first time that they thought about, oh, how did that make me feel? Right. And so this practice, right, in terms of like the physical side of things, is we're training our bodies to sense the cortisol spike and catch our breath, right? Your breath shortens, and we're training our muscle memory to take a long, slow, deep breath, which will reset the spike and bring you back to baseline. But then on the other side, what we're doing is, you know, by doing this breathing, we're taking more deep breaths in a minute than you normally would. So we're super oxygenating our blood, right? We're hyper oxygenating our blood. And what that does temporarily is it changes the blood pH, and it creates this kind of like very interesting physical sensation, but it also puts our brains into a highly plastic state, a highly malleable state. And for all the people out there doing yoga that are meditating without mantra, you're wasting this juicy, delicious neuroplastic state where you can reprogram your mind to think anything, right? And this is why for the first layer of when people, you know, enter my realm and enter the practice that that my friends and I are into is that you have to build up the foundation of joy, because most of us, through atrophy, through conditioning, through whatever, we're just tuned to spot the most negative things that happen in our day. You know, like you have all these people talking about journaling and talking like gratitude, right? So this is why we take these 8 long, slow, deep breaths paired with the 8 pillars of joy from Buddhism, right? And so, you know, for yourself and, you know, anybody listening, what I have folks do is you grabbing a blank sheet of paper, right, and then you write, you turn it sideways, so like landscape style, and then write joy in the middle in big letters, right? Just 3 letters, joy. And then along the 2 sides, we're going to have the 8 pillars, right? So four on each side. The first one is the joy of changing your perspective, right? And this is the intellectual joy. It's like no matter how crappy a situation is, it's like if you can reform a new narrative with the same set of facts so that you're less upset, there's like some intellectual giddiness that can happen when you do that on the fly. And I've experienced it, you know, didn't believe it at first, then we'll get to that. But the second one is the joy of humility, the joy that can be found in like coming up with you know, just joy and humility, right? Just think about it that way. And then the joy and humor is the third one. Then the fourth is the joy of acceptance. The fifth is the joy and forgiveness. And then the joy and generosity, joy and gratitude, joy and compassion. Now, I can tell you as an entrepreneur, I specifically had problems with acceptance and forgiveness. Right?
I would say most people do. I think that is the one that we're missing. And what's funny is I was just watching a TikTok, and like I love how TikTok, the algorithm is scary at times because it gives you what you need and you didn't really know you needed it. And it was talking about how the hero story, and how the hero story is one of the stories that the elders would tell the youth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's more entertaining, it's black and white, it's easy to understand, and for a teenager, you know, an adolescence, it's easy to follow, and it deals with all this complex because you're learning hormones and all this. But later on you learn the middle-aged story from the elder, because they're teaching that lessons that we need to learn. But because we've gotten into this society, I think we didn't get taught the lessons of how to learn to forgive, how to learn to accept from the stories from our elders, because we're in that disconnected world. So I love how it's kind of been replayed here with you sharing that on the Buddhist side as well.
And the thing is these stories, right? The hero journey, the hero myth, these, you know, we are aware of these stories of forgiveness if just implicitly through, you know, Disney movies, right? Like you know, there are only a few archetypal stories that really get the people going. And, you know, you sprinkle a little teenage love story in there, and that's every movie that comes out of Hollywood.
Just a bit of love, and it's Hollywood.
A little teenage love story, you know, it's got to be the teenage love story.
Yeah.
But, no. And so the thing about this style of practice, and I'm glad you brought up the kind of the narrative angle of this, because like I feel that so much meditation in the Western world is taught prescriptively, in the sense of like, this is what you need to think. And that is very much an inertia from the way that the kind of the Western world treats, you know, every discipline of study. You know, as a scientist, I can tell you, you know, we're critical first, right? But the way that this works in terms of like the mantra is that you're using the breath to still the mind, right? Imagining the mind is like an ocean with waves, and it's got currents underneath, and it's got waves on top, and it's just fucked, you know? Like scumbag brain is always messing with you, right? And so what we're doing here is we're breathing in a very strange way. And so, you know, forgive me, it's a little strange, but this is the technology, right? But we're by breathing in this strange way, we're focusing mentally. Our conscious focus is on how your stomach and chest and rib cage is moving. And then as we're breathing, you think the joy of changing your perspective, right? You just have nothing. You don't, and you like you use the breath to still the mind pond, and you use the words to drop a rock in the pond. Let the ripples go where they go. Don't even pay attention to where they go. Just you're breathing in, long, slow, deep. Joy in changing your perspective. Joy in changing your perspective. Joy in changing your perspective. We get to the top. We take it another breath to open the rib cage. We take another breath to open the collarbones. Take another breath. Think joy in changing your perspective. Exhale slowly through the nose. Let's like thinking joy and changing your perspective all the way down, right? And then at the bottom of the breath, we're pulling the belly button in, squeezing it. Squeeze, 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 like we're feeling like we're pushing all the air out of our lungs through the diaphragm, and then relax the belly, breathe in, joy and acceptance. Counting to 8 on the way up, thinking joy and acceptance, joy and acceptance, joy and acceptance. At the top, breathe in some more, open the rib cage. Joy and acceptance, breathe in some more, joy and humility was the one, but we can go with acceptance for now. We'll just go out of order. Breathe in some more. Out slowly through the nose, thinking joy and acceptance. All the way to the bottom, squeezing the belly button tight, squeeze, 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 joy and acceptance, joy and acceptance. Relax the belly, breathe in, joy and humility. Long, slow, deep, counting to 8. At the top, breathe in some more, joy and humility. In some more, open the collarbones, joy and humility. In some more, out slowly. At the bottom, squeezing the belly button, joy and humility, joy and humility. Let the ripples go where they go. Focus on the squeeze, relax, breathe in, joy and humor. Thinking all the way up, joy and humor, joy and humor. Breathe at the top, open the ribs, breathe in some more, joy and humor. Breathe in some more. In one more time. Out slowly through the nose. At the bottom, squeezing the belly button. We're skipping over acceptance. We're going to think about the joy and forgiveness. Okay. Relax the belly, breathe in, joy and forgiveness. At the top, in some more, open the ribs, joy and forgiveness. In some more, joy and acceptance, or joy and forgiveness, open the collarbones. In some more, out slowly. This is a slow, controlled exhale. Do not do a powerful sigh. That's wasting the energy. Slowly exhaling to the bottom. Squeeze the belly button. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Relax, breathe in, joy and gratitude. At the top, in some more, open the ribs. In some more, open the collarbones. In some more, out slowly, joy and gratitude. At the bottom, squeezing the belly button, squeeze, 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 push all the air out of your lungs. It's the most important part. Relax, breathe in, joy and generosity. At the top, in some more, open the ribs, joy and generosity. In some more, open the collarbones, joy and generosity. In some more, out slowly. At the bottom, squeezing, squeezing, joy and generosity, joy and generosity, squeeze, squeeze. Relax the belly, breathe in, joy and compassion. At the top, in some more, open the ribs, joy and compassion. In some more, open the collarbones. In some more. All right, this is the last breath. Exhale slowly, joy and compassion. Thinking joy and compassion all the way down. As we get to the bottom, squeeze the belly button like we did before. Exhale, squeeze the belly button. Now we're going to engage the root lock, the Mula Bandha. This is like the Kegel exercise muscle. So keeping your breath held at the bottom, no air in your lungs, squeezing the belly button, squeezing the root lock. Hold, don't breathe in. Or don't breathe in. Now take a huge breath in. At the top, squeeze the belly button in the root lock. Breathe in some more. Open the rib cage. Squeeze. Breathe in some more. Open the collarbones. Squeeze the belly button root lock. Breathe in one more time. Squeeze. Put the tip of the tongue to the top of the mouth. Squeezing the belly button in the root lock. Hold. Don't breathe out. Now do a cannonball breath out. Relax the body, relax the breathing. Try not to fidget. Keep your eyes closed. How'd that feel?
Wow, that was amazing.
There we go. juice, man. That's how you grow your amygdala. It feels nice, huh?
It feels great. It's such a weird sensation. Like I had tried Wim Hof's breathing technique for a week and it felt amazing, and then life, and then I just never picked it up. But that just, I'm literally going to clip that and just have it play in my Spotify whenever I do my meditating. Just have that go to help me do it. I can't thank you enough. And like, that's a huge value to my listeners. What we're going to do now, we're going to jump to the spark question.
Okay.
Because we are coming up on time, but I love that. Oh, that was an amazing. Wow. My brain's messed with just how like relaxed and calm I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna ask the spark question from Yes Theory for seeking discomfort. It's to spark conversation between you and a friend, a stranger who's a friend you haven't met yet. What's one thing you would never want to change about yourself?
I would never want to change my love for music. Yeah, I think that that music, much like breath, is a rhythmic container for life. And like when I was a kid, as a good little Chinese boy, I played the violin. But then when I got to high school, I didn't play the violin anymore because the football was way better at talking to girls.
Yeah, the women seem to choose the football over the violinist.
So that part of my life, in terms of like playing music, had been dormant, for like 15 years until one thing led to another, and then you find yourself making a website for a world champion ballroom dancer, and then he pays you in private lessons. And so that's where I'm at now, and it's a good time.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Charles, I'm going to jump off the screen here. I'm going to let you have the last little bit. Please let my audience know where they can follow you, where they can support you, and everything in between. The floor, sir, is yours.
Oh, sure. Well, thanks, Phil, and hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to our conversation. I hope you enjoyed the breathing exercise, and never skip joy day. It's very clear, the neuroscience. You do this exercise that I showed you for 20 days, new neurons will grow. You do it for another 20 days, those neurons will solidify, and you will feel psychologically, physically. You just heard him, how incredible that felt physically, but wait till he does it for 20 days. And if you want to get in touch with me personally, you can find me on Instagram. It's just at Don't Punk Out. We're also getting a YouTube and a Twitch stream going, and you'll find us once a week on the Twitch stream doing a live neuroplastic workout as we did just now, but using some very specific containers that will enable us to grow our amygdalas even faster, right? So hope to see you all there. And if you like what we got going on, then give us a follow, give the book a buy, and we'll see you around. Thank you.
Awesome. Charles, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for that breath work. It's going to be an invaluable thing for me to use. Like I still don't even know, it's like a meditational device. I think it's going to help me a lot, and help me calm my brain, because I felt such at peace. And like you said, I was so present, just concentrating on the breath, that I didn't have time to think about anything else. And it was so nice to have a quiet mind. So thank you very much for that amazing gift. I don't know how else to thank you for that.
Do it every day. You can.
Oh, I am. I'm literally going to be going to the YouTube and clipping it and just uploading it straight to my phone to have it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to check in with you.
Please do. To my audience, make sure you check out the links down below to connect with Charles. Make sure you check out the live stream. I know I will, because it's worked already. This is how I feel right now, and this was a small workout. I can't wait to see what else you have coming down the pipeline, Charles. And remember to always invest in yourself.